start with some recruiting. Kendrick Blackshire drops his top 6, and in his top 6, the Duncanville, Texas high school linebacker, 6'2", 250 pounds, lists Oklahoma, which is a great win for OU as they've been recruiting Blackshire for the better part of 3 years now, and we're very early in on him. Texas A&M, who is always just going to be kind of around, and Blackshire took a visit there last year and is stayed in contact with them through the course of his recruitment. Baylor's also on this list, which is a great win for Dave Aranda as he just got to Baylor and hasn't really had time or the opportunity to travel, let alone invite kids in to see what he is trying to build at Baylor. LSU is on this list, and I think that LSU is on this list primarily because of what they have done, not just with the 15-0 season, but Patrick Queen going in the first round tonight might help them out. Also got to throw in there, Jacob Phillips was great. Cave LaVon Chasen, which is more the position that Blackshire projects to, also might be a first-round draft pick. And then Illinois. I'm not sure about this Illinois one. I mean, I get the tie, and I get why he puts it on the list, but I don't really see them as a contender, even as Lovie Smith had himself a great season last year by Illinois standards because they went bowling, and they got a really good win against Wisconsin. Now, I find what's most fascinating about this is Texas is not on the list for a Duncanville native kid and the number 6 inside linebacker in the country, a top 30 recruit in the state of Texas, and a top 150 recruit in the 247 Sports Composite. Blackshire is built like a Greek god, and he has been since he was 15 years old, walking around at 230 pounds. And the projection on him is to that of Zach Brown in the NFL, but he feels like a jack linebacker type, even as he plays the Mike linebacker position in high school. He's played off the edge. I think that he could put his hand on the ground. I just don't think that he wants to. And as a bulked up specimen and virtually college ready in his size, pointed out by 24 Sports recruiting analyst Gabe Brooks, you could see the only disadvantage to him being this big this soon is perhaps flexibility, right? And then how much more does he have to grow? Now, we still know from basic biology that men don't stop growing until about 25 years old. So would he grow out of this linebacker position, or has he already grown out of that linebacker position? That remains to be seen. But I think one of the reasons that he's also not as highly rated as you would think he would be with this size is because he missed his junior season with an anterior cruciate ligament tear, right? So he didn't have another season of 90 plus tackles. Freshman, sophomore year, coming out of Mesquite Horn, he combined for 180 tackles in 2 years. That's not a small number of tackles. He was able to get off blocks like it was easy. He was able to push aside offensive tackles like it was easy. And going to Duncanville, which is one of the class programs in Texas high school football, led us all to believe that perhaps he was really thinking about Texas, and maybe they're not on the list because he might not be a scheme fit for them, because they've gone from Todd Orlando's 3-3-5 to more of a 4-2-5 match quarter shell with Chris Ash as the new defensive coordinator there. Still, you'd like to see Texas on the list, and you would think that they would keep recruiting him to play something. And what is going on at Texas in that one of the best wide receivers in the state of Texas, coming out of Aledo, same place that Jason McClellan came out of, in JoJo Earle, has apparently made a decision, and we saw crystal balls roll in for LSU. Now, Oklahoma wanted JoJo and feels like they could still get there, but Texas Christian has made a move, and we'll see what that means. But having Texas just kind of looking on the outs for two of the top blue chip recruits in the state is not what we're used to seeing. I mean, we're also used to seeing Texas be able to put together top 5 recruiting classes each year, and they might not threaten to do that this year. One, because they are not securing in-state kiddos. I mean, the conceit of a Texas fan to an Oklahoma fan is all of your best players come from Texas, to which I would say, yeah, y'all just can't seem to keep a fence around them, can you? That's not a good look. And now it's not just Oklahoma, which recruits Texas like its home base, because it is, or Louisiana, which is right next to Texas, or even Arkansas, right, which can go into East Texas and win. It's USC. It's Ohio State, right? It's squads that don't really have a regional footprint until they establish one by going down there to win. Ohio State with J.K. Dobbins and Jeff Okudah, two dudes that are probably going to be drafted in the first and second round of this year's NFL draft. And they continue to go down there, get guys like Garrett Wilson out of the Austin area, which is literally in the same city as the University of Texas. And now lately, it's USC that is making inroads into Texas. Talk with my colleague over at OUI, Colin Kennedy, who makes it his job to have the pulse of Texas high school football players. And we were exchanging notes saying, look, the kids are telling me USC is really getting after it in the Texas area. And Todd Orlando apparently bringing over his board and saying, hey, these are guys that we need to get and guys that we need to have, putting them on to Vic Soto. And then if they're able to get Corey Foreman, who has been crystal balled by folks that I trust to go into USC, they could vault into the number 3, even number 2 spot ahead of North Carolina in these team rankings, all while Texas is just left grabbing at something. Not sure what that something is just yet. It's also interesting when you point out that Texas is in a year for which you got to have the W's if you're Tom Herman. You have blown up the staff, right? You brought in a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator, and you fired yourself as the play caller. You can only do that trick once. And Chris Del Conte, while giving Tom Herman rope, also knows that the guy that he was just employing up the road at Texas Christian has done nothing but take such pleasure in beating the hell out of Texas. And I assure you, all of us are going to be terrified if Gary Patterson were ever to become the Texas Longhorns head coach, because then you give him the recruiting to go with the talent development, because we're talking about a dude who doesn't win a whole bunch of games year in and year out in the Big 12 that continues to put top-notch defensive talent into the NFL draft, and they get drafted highly. Last year, it was LJ Collier. This year, it could be Ross Blacklock. We know about Ben Bangu. We know about other guys, Sewu Olanolua, right? Darius Anderson. Years ago, Trayvon Boykin. Give him the budget of a Texas and the ability to recruit nationally like a Texas. And instead of having Max Duggan call him up from Iowa and Council Bluffs and say, yo, can I trip to Texas Christian because I would kind of like to go there. And Patterson had no idea that a blue chip quarterback from Iowa would be interested in going to Texas Christian University. This is a year for which Tom Herman, of all people, should be taking advantage of this dead period and getting as many kids in the boat as possible, because Nick Saban is also just going to come in there again and get kids. One of the reasons that Blackshire said that he put Alabama on his list was because he tore his ACL. And he knows about the training staff at Alabama, and watching what they were able to do with Tua Tagovailoa and help put him back together and rehab him, and what they've been able to do with guys like Dylan Moses, who's coming back after a season-ending injury, would lead him to believe that he would be in great and capable hands. Also has me wondering just how much we're going to see of him in the 21 high school football season. I'm still bullish that we're going to have one. I just don't know when we might have it. And I know that particularly in the South and in football-rich states, folks are pushing toward reopening the businesses around, the restaurants around. And as much as I want to see the economy get churning again, I would like to see college football too, right? I'm just not ready to see it just now. Still, ain't my call. It is the call of our elected officials and really about our public confidence. But if Nick Saban gets his wish, and you're given a 14-day period before, say, a fall preseason camp, if we still have things in basic lockdown mode through most of the summer, like many people think that we might or should, you would also think that Kendrick Blackshire would be able to travel to an Alabama, right? And he'd be able to take that in. Also be able to travel to an Oklahoma. I think that the virtual tours are great, and many kids are really interested in the virtual tours, and they would do their own research virtually anyway. I talked to so many kiddos that use YouTube to figure out what the facilities are like at a university, and use Twitter to figure out what branding might look like at a university. And a kid like Blackshire, who is going to be a high-value recruit for whomever is certainly going to take all of that in. And he looks like he's going to take every opportunity to, one, put out a list, and two, say, I'm close, but I'm not ready. I'm close, but I'm not ready. And I would expect him to have a decision at the end of the summer heading into fall football.